Eile Berechel, Leila Basusim, Anachnu B'Shem, Adonai Eloheinu Nazgi. Hey Makoru V'Nafalum, Anachnu Kamnu V'Naseidu. Adonai Heshia, Hamelech Yaneinu, V'Yem Kareinu. Okay. Today's class is Ali Nishmas, Yortzeit, Oleg, Ben Laser. Shavalis and Neshama. The ultimate idea is when the Neshama comes right back down here with Mashiach. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Malachim Sha'akol Neh B'Dvarim. So we're in Oz Gimel in the Maimer, and up until this point, the Friedrich Rebbe explains that Lech Lecha is the avodah of making the connection between the neshama, the mata, and the part of my neshama that's the ma'ila, which means being more connected means that I feel more openly and more consciously what the neshama, the ma'ila is. Which and also that the neshama down here becomes inspired by the neshama up there. So that's what helps a person daven better, learn better, do Torah mitzvahs better. Everything is at a much higher level. And how do you make that connection? So we said there are two possibilities. Here's more, you can take this. It shouldn't be on my desk, it should be on one of the tables there. So you don't have to make such a long journey to get it. You don't mind taking the bunch? Yes. Thank you. Just put on one of the tables, thank you. So this is the meaning of the ladder to connect, and that part of the neshama which we're referring to as the highest level, that's chaya and yechida. The part of the neshama that's in the body, that's nefesh, ruach, neshama. So after explaining all this, he said there's another condition here, and that is that the ladder is standing on the oretz. And Avraham Avinu was told, leave this oretz and go to the other oretz, this land and go to that land. So now the question is, what is oretz in Avodas Hashem? The way he explained it, Baruchni, he says oretz represents the sphere of Malchus. And he explained that for the neshama to come down here, it has to, the route, the neshama's itinerary is it goes from Chochmah to Malchus, and through Malchus it comes down here. So if that's the way it goes down here, that's the way it has to go back up. Then through Malchus it goes back up. So this is about a spiritual things that happen spiritually, which we know that it's there, but we don't, and it's not something that we're sort of in control of. But there is the same thing in Avodah that we are in control of. In fact, when we do our Avodah the way he's going to explain now, then that'll cause the neshama to go through this journey that it's supposed to, Sfiras HaMalchus, Sfiras HaChochmah, to connect to the essence of the neshama. So now he's going to explain what is the meaning of Eretz in Avodas Hashem. So we're starting with Oz Gimel. Our sages said, I want to add one more thing, that today is Chavdalad Teves, Alter Rebbe's Yom Hilula. That is another thing that it says in Chassidus, which helps a person connect the part of the neshama that's in the body to the part of the neshama that's not mislabish in the guf, that's higher than the body, and it's closer to Hashem. And basically, this is the inyan of iskashus, the connection to a Rebbe. It's one of the ideas behind the inyan of iskashus to a Rebbe. What does that mean? We know that it says in Chassidus, the neshama of a Rebbe is a neshama klolis. What's a neshama klolis? So there's a story in the Medrash, also related to these parashas. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was teaching his students, and he saw that they were, I think it says they were sleeping off. I guarantee you that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi students weren't falling asleep and snoring. It probably means they were not as alert as they should have been. And therefore, he wanted to do something to perk them up, wake them up. And he asked them a riddle. And the riddle was that the women in Mitzrayim gave birth to 6 babies at a time. And that's why the Egyptians were panicking, they're going to take over the planet. But there was one woman that she gave birth to 600,000 babies at once. So that did the job. They all woke up, 600,000. And he asked them if they know who this woman was. Nobody knew the answer. So he told them her name was Yocheved. She gave birth to Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Rabbeinu is 600,000. The simple pshat in this Gemara is that Moshe Rabbeinu is equivalent, his importance, his greatness spiritually is equal to 600,000 people. We find something like this in Pirkei Avos. You might remember that it says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 students, which means really he had tens of thousands of students. He was the greatest teacher of Torah in his generation, but he had 5 students, which are the most outstanding of all. And he speaks about all their greatnesses. And then he says there's one student, and there are 2 opinions which one, that if you would put him on the scale and put all the other sages, all the sages of Torah on the other side of the scale, he would outweigh them. So we're talking about importance, greatness, that his greatness in Torah knowledge and everything else is so great that it's equivalent to 600,000 Yidden. That's the simple pshat. The pshat api Kabbalah, api Chassidus is much deeper than that. His neshama was a neshama klolis, which means his neshama contained in it all the other neshamas, which means all the neshamas in the entire generation were really an extension of his neshama. So just like a tree is the source for all the branches in the tree, all the leaves in the tree, and all the fruits that are on the tree, they're all coming from this tree. Or just like the sun, where all the light in the whole world, wherever it's shining, every house, every corner, every field, it's coming from this one sun. All the neshamas that we have in our bodies, they all come from Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama. His neshama contains in it all the neshamas of his generation. And the same is with every Nasi in every generation. And there's different levels in this. Just like in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, there were 12 tribes. Each tribe had a Nasi. That means the Nasi of the tribe of Reuven, his neshama contained in it all the neshamas of Reuven. So not all the Yidden, but all the Yidden that belonged to Shevet Reuven, their neshamas were included in his neshama. And all the neshamas of Shevet Shimon, their neshama was included in the neshama of their Nasi. What was unique about Moshe Rabbeinu was that his neshama included all 600,000 Yidden in one. There's another place where we find this in Chumash, in Rashi. The Rebbe always quotes this, and that is where it says in Chumash Bamidbar that Moshe Rabbeinu sent shluchim. And then in another place it says, and the Yidden sent shluchim. So Rashi asks, here it says Moshe did it. Here it says the Yidden did it. Which is it? Was it the Yidden or Moshe? So Rashi says this teaches that Moshe is the Yidden and the Yidden are Moshe, ki ha-nasi hu ha-kol, because the Nasi is everything. Again, if you learn it without Chassidus, it means he's in charge of everything, he's on top of everything. But api Chassidus, ha-nasi ha-kol means his neshama includes all the neshamas of the generation. So that means that Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama is the source of our neshama. Being that the Maimar is talking about how can I connect to the source of my neshama? So the answer is, the more a person's connected to the source of the neshama, in the sense that he's connected to the Nasi of the generation, that connects me to the source of my neshama. Yeah.
I have a question. There are a lot of Hasidic communities, and each one has their Rebbe. So everyone believes that the Rebbe has all the neshamot in them. And is it true? Like all the Rebbes that are living in them at the same time have all the neshamas?
So when the Rebbe speaks about the idea of Nasi Hadar, that would mean that all these tzaddikim who have hundreds or maybe thousands of chassidim, their neshama is a neshama klolis that is connected, and their neshama includes all the neshamas of those people that follow them.
Only the ones that follow them.
Right. A Nasi Hadar means that his neshama includes all the neshamas of the entire generation.
And there is only one.
And that is only one.
Okay.
And of course, we're not we don't have the ability to make that kind of judgment. So which is this neshama, which is that neshama? We're just basing it on the Rebbe's words, that the Rebbe says that the Rebbes of Chabad, in each generation, they were the Nasi of the generation.
Okay.
If someone asks you, come on, your Rebbe, yeah, maybe it's my Rebbe. So first of all, again, we're basing it on the Rebbe. But if you need something to explain to a person where they could sort of see it, even from their perspective, you find an interesting thing. Let's say there's a Rebbe living in Yerushalayim, and every week he meets with his Chassidim and he teaches them. And let's say he has 5,000 Chassidim. What about the rest of the world? What is he doing for the rest of the world? That means he has no Abbas Yisrael. He doesn't care. No, he's a tzaddik, so I'm sure he cares for everybody. So why doesn't he do something for all the Jews in the world? So you must say that as a tzaddik, he knows that his avodah, his shlichus, is to give hashpah, to give spiritual influence to these people, and from there it'll spread to the rest of the world. But his direct connections to these people, why? Why are they different than everybody else? Because his neshama contains their neshamas. And this is pretty much with every other Rebbe or tzaddik that we know in the world. So if you see that there's one Rebbe and one tzaddik, that wants to know what's happening in Tasmania, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Hong Kong, every corner of the world, why? He's looking to keep himself busy. What's the reason? Obviously, he feels connected to all the Yidden in the world because his neshama is a neshama close. If somebody wants to argue, they can argue. I can't prove anything like that. So again, our basis is the Rebbe's words. But if you want to look and take a look, it's something which is to be logical. Why is one Rebbe concerned about only these people, and there's another Rebbe that's concerned about everyone? And the answer is because his neshama is connected to all the neshamas in the world. And there are actually so many stories of people that the Rebbe, was besides the fact that he sent shluchim, just stories of people that the Rebbe sent them messages before they even send the Rebbe a message.
Wow.
So the neshama of, let's say, a smaller, like Baba of Stalin, is that? So the neshamas of those people are contained in the neshama
of their Rebbe. Yeah.
So if you don't connect to that Rebbe, it means that your neshama is not.
Right. So in fact, it could be the very reason why they're drawn to that Rebbe, they're attracted to that Rebbe, is because their neshama is part of that tzaddik's neshama. So they're drawn to that.
Some people are drawn to a few Rebbes. Like I know some people are like Lubavitch, but they connect to the Stalin Rebbe.
That's another discussion.
Okay.
How does it work with having a few Rebbes?
Yeah.
And a few Rebbes really have no Rebbe. That's what it comes down to. I need time to explain it, but that's what it is.
Well.
Okay, being that you brought it up, I'll tell you another story of what it means. But we need to explain it. I'm saying this in advance. There was a Rebbe called, I think, Parisiv Rebbe. I think this is in Poland, or even a Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, I think. It's a smaller group. But this happened in Poland, where he once went to the Ohel of Rabbi Melech of Lezhensk. He was one of the biggest Rebbes in the times of the Alter Rebbe in Poland. Right. They call him the Rebbe of all the Rebbes, because most of the Rebbes of other courtyards are all his students. Anyway, he went to his Ohel to daven, and then immediately he steps out, and he says to his secretary, "Do you know what's going on with this and this chassid?" So the secretary says, "No, nothing that I know." And the Rebbe says, "I don't see him anywhere." So the secretary says, maybe something happened to him, chas v'shalom. So the Rebbe says, I don't see him there either. I don't see him here and I don't see him there. So shrugged his shoulders and the Rebbe went back in. Anyway, he decided it's somebody who we knew personally. So he decided when he gets back home, he's going to find him and ask him what's going on in his life, something strange. So he came back. Apparently that person lived in a city not far from his city. So he traveled there. When he found him, he said to him, tell me, what was going on last week? Whatever day that was, Tuesday, Wednesday, what was happening? Nothing special, he was thinking. I said, last week on that day, I actually came to our Rebbe. I needed a bracha for something. So I came to our Rebbe. But they told me he's not here. He went to Lezhensk, to the oil of the Rebbe Elimelech. But I needed the bracha. So I went to a different Rebbe, not far from here, and I got a bracha from him. So when he went to that Rebbe, his Rebbe said, I don't see him anyway. He got cut out of his radar, so to speak. So the idea of being Mekusha to 10 Rebbes is not really the idea of his kashas to a Rebbe. The idea that every Rebbe is a tzaddik and you can learn from everybody something, of course, but his kashas is usually to one Rebbe. But a broader discussion, I don't want to get lost. Yeah.
I did hear about some Hasidim of Chabad that when it was Gimel Thomas, they actually went to another Rebbe. They just thought they needed.
So obviously they were lacking in their understanding of what a chassid is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not bad people, just lacking in their understanding and the appreciation of what it means to be connected to a Rebbe.
He means our Rebbe.
Whoever their Rebbe was, right?
Was the Rebbe.
Which is our Rebbe, yeah. Okay. Obiri Yom Razal, our sages said, Lo Nikra Shmo Eretz. Why is it called Eretz? Why is Eretz Yisrael called Eretz? It comes from the word rotzen, desire. That Eretz Yisrael wants to do, has a desire to do the will of his creator, which is Hashem. What does it mean that a piece of land has a desire? So probably is the same like we always say, that everything in the world has a malach that's in charge of it. Like Har Sinai was saying, I'm nobody. Hashem won't give the Torah on me. It means the malach, the angel in charge of Har Sinai. Or stories in the Medrash about the Yamsuf, the water didn't want to split. It means that the malach was in charge of the water. And here too, it means whoever malach in charge of the land, and therefore the land of Eretz Yisrael, just the physical soil has in it the nature, and it projects that nature in people to want to do what Hashem wants. And what is it about the land? Eretz, anova shifra. Spiritually, Eretz is anova, which is humility, and shifra also means to feel simple. It's just like the Gashmis, the land, the earth. Shahako doshin aleho. We know that in davening we say, "V'nafshi ka'ofor la'kel tia." My soul should be like dust towards everyone. In other words, just like Begashmi, the earth is physically on the ground, lower. People walk on top of it. So earth represents the attribute of humility. Now, of course, there's earth which is negative, and there's earth which is positive. There could be, for example, a person who has no self-esteem. That's not humility. That's something which is destructive. You have to feel that you have, you're Yid, you have Torah, you have mitzvahs, and you have a mission in this world. But humility is not a lack of self-esteem. We'll soon explain the difference, but let's first go inside. Okay, so just like physically, Oretz is the lowest thing, and everybody's on higher than it, on top of it. So too, in the nefesh, Eretz is the attribute of humility. And that's what it means that the ladder of davening should be standing on the Eretz, that dafka through humility, I could reach the essence of my neshama. And if I'm davening and doing this or doing that, but I'm lacking humility, I won't be able to really connect to the essence of my neshama. And I was going to explain why. The foundation and the primary thing and the first thing when it comes for a person serving Hashem, anyone that wants to become closer to godliness, whether he wants to become closer by ascending from down up, which we learned before. Lalois midarga ledarga, to rise from one level to another level, to have deeper layers and deeper levels of love for Hashem, deeper levels of fear and awe of Hashem in davening. Until he reaches a level where he has this love and desire to connect to Hashem that transcends seichel, and it's so strong and it's so powerful, the klois hanefesh, that it's something which the soul could expire because it's so intense that the body can't even contain it. That's going up. Or he wants the closeness in a way where it goes from up down, which means so generally speaking, the difference between going from down up or from up down is the difference between Torah and Tefillah. When you're davening, it's going from down up, because davening means that I'm generating feelings of love for Hashem. When you love someone, you're being drawn to that person. I'm down here, Hashem is up there, and I'm being drawn to him. And I'm drawn, and that generates strong feelings of wanting to connect to the Eibishter. That's why they can be close on nefesh. I'm so drawn to him, and I'm craving to be close to him, that the neshama could chaz v'shalom leave the body. Torah is different. Torah is hamshacham u'mayol lamata. Torah is not about emotion. What is Torah? I'm taking Hashem's wisdom, and I'm learning it, which is I'm allowing Hashem's wisdom to become part of my intellect, of my seichel. So I'm drawing down godliness in my brain, in my seichel. I'm connecting with Hashem, but in the reverse order. There's a pasuk that's always brought when it comes to this subject, where it says, "Min hashamayim hishbiacho es kaila." Hashem made you hear His voice from Shamayim. So that's another way of connecting, but that's Mamaylo Lamata. That Hashem, through Torah, is drawn upon me. So again, when you're learning Torah, it's not an emotional thing. It's not about me drawn to Hashem. It's about me opening up my mind that Hashem's wisdom and Hashem's understanding should become part of my wisdom and my understanding, and becomes my perspective and so on. You see the difference? Is it clear?
Rabbi Majeski,
Yeah.
if you are learning Torah and you do get emotional, is that like no longer the up down?
I wouldn't worry about it. Anything that gets me excited, I would hold on to it. I do get excited because I'm learning Torah. It's Hashem's Torah, especially if you think about it. But I guess primarily, in fact, generally speaking, intellect and emotion can't exist together at the same time. If a person is thinking about things intellectually, that's usually when they calm down. If a person is very excited, they can concentrate so much intellectually. So, but I guess if it's not really deep concentration, you could have intellect and emotion at the same time. Which brings us to another story connected to Chavdala Teves, that when the Alter Rebbe was nostalgic, the Mittel Rebbe, his son, wasn't there. Where was he? Remember, we said yesterday that the Alter Rebbe was running away from Napoleon, and therefore his house where he lived before was burnt down. And Napoleon is pursuing them, so they're running. Finally, they came to a place where they were safe, but now they needed a new place to live. A new place to live. So he sent his son, the Mittel Rebbe, to go find that place. And he was away looking for a place where they could settle. When he was away, that's when Alter Rebbe was nostalgic. When he heard the news, Alter Rebbe was nostalgic, he fainted. When they woke him up, he fainted. When they woke him up again, he fainted. Which means that he was obviously so in so much grief that he Pashut could not handle it. And we're all worried that his life is in danger. After it happened a few times, someone thought of an idea, and he ran over to the Mittel Rebbe and he held in his hand a manuscript of Chassidus the Alter Rebbe wrote. And he said, here, this the Alter Rebbe wrote this is what he wrote, this is his Torah teaching. The Mittel Rebbe looked at it, and he said, if so, we have what to live with, and he didn't faint after that. In other words, the Alter Rebbe invested himself in his Torah, in his teaching, and we have that. So as a result of that, we have our connection to Hashem. But it's a different kind of connection. It's the connection that the Alter Rebbe, through his Torah, is reaching me. Just like we say about Hashem, that Hashem, through his Torah, is shining his light on me. So that's Mamayla Lamata. You know, in Chassidus it says that a person has to be careful. We don't have that problem, but people who are on a very high level, they daven, they can get so carried away, chas v'sholom, the neshama could leave the body. So let's say they do daven, they do get carried away. Like what? How do they manage to survive? And the answer is because they recognize that I have Hashem. What do I want to do? I want to embrace Hashem. I want to get close with Hashem. I have Him. When I learn, I have Hashem. So in this week's parsha, there's a story that Moshe Rabbeinu saw a burning bush, was on fire, but it wasn't being consumed by the fire. So there's a lot of explanations what the bush represents, Rashi, Midrashim, but one of the explanations is that it means that Moshe Rabbeinu was looking and he said, this is amazing. He couldn't, what was amazing? That Yidden are on fire with their love for Hashem, and they don't get consumed by that fire, which means they're still alive. The neshama is still in the body. And what's the secret? How are they still alive? Because through Torah and mitzvahs, they have Hashem down here. So in the language of Chassidus, from other Maimarim, you might recognize, is there has to be Ratzui v'shuv. Ratzui means I'm drawn towards Hashem, and shuv means to pull back and be grounded. And how can I be grounded so much? Because I recognize that Hashem is here. Once traveling, he was on his, and then he says to the wagon driver, faster, make the horse go faster. Faster. He whips the horses faster. Like looks like there's some sort of emergency. He couldn't find, and he's whipping the horses, they're going as fast as they can. And as soon as they get to town, the Mittel Rebbe jumps over the wagon, runs into the shul, goes over to the bookcase, takes out a Gemara and starts learning. What was happening? The way Chassidim understand the story was he felt if he doesn't get hold of that Gemara right now, who knows what's going to happen to him. But that's what grounded him. I'm sure you heard another story where Alter Rebbe was learning with someone, with the Malach, and he also felt he was losing it, and he had him wash and eat a piece of bread with a bagel and butter, and that's what held him down, which is again the same thing. Make a bracha, something that's connected, that you need the grounding. So the Torah is the ground because it comes down here. Tefillah is the opposite, is lifting myself off the ground towards Hashem. So whether I want to connect to Hashem Umata L'mayla, or I'm connecting to Hashem Umayla L'mata, Hakar who are there another, the shiftless, that has to be, the prerequisite is humility. And that's why it says that the ladder stands on the earth, because that's a prerequisite. As it says, Morim v'kodesh eshkein bezdako shval ruach. So this is a pasuk. We have this also on the back on page 50. And the pasuk is a pasuk in Bamidbar. No, wrong number. It's a pasuk, it's page 50, pasuk in Yeshayahu. So Hashem says, Morim v'kodesh eshkein, which means I live in exaltedness, in holiness, in a very high place, but I'm with those that are despondent and low spirit. In other words, I'm all the way up there, but I'm connected to those that are down here, which basically means Hashem is saying, even though I'm so high up, who am I connected with? Those who have humility. Hashem came Mishu b'bchinis yeshes v'gasos, but those that have yeshes v'gasos, that they are arrogant, and they have yeshus, einay klila lakus. A person So yeah, she's not a vessel for godliness, which means to be learning, to be davening, but in order to experience godly light, and it should be a godly experience, the keli for that is only bittul. And a person who's a yesh can't really experience godliness. Not only it's not a vessel for godliness, adrabo hepech godliness. It's sort of the exact opposite of godliness. So a person who's a yesh cannot have godliness in a revealed way. What is yeshus? The Indian. Now, when you talk about yeshus, there are gazillion levels of yeshus. The general idea of yeshus is sort of a excessive sense of self. I'm obsessed with self. I'm focused on self, centered around self. But there are many levels in this, many, many levels. So he starts by saying like this: generally speaking, it's a person that he has a very important place in his own eyes. He considers himself someone with prominence. Like, I'm not just a regular person. I'm somebody special. And generally speaking, what we're talking about is a hergish, shemargish es atzmei le'ezeh mitzir dover ma. He is very self-conscious, always thinking about self, and very, like I said, he feels a certain prominence of himself. As a result of that, he feels how everything about him and himself, this is extremely important. Like his needs are more important than any, because he's such an important person. This feeling of yeshus, that he gives this prominence to himself and the importance to himself, and that his needs are sort of more important than other things. This is the source for all sorts of negative things, which means that Chassidus teaches us that yeshus, not only is it a negative character trait, it's the source for all other negative character traits. It says, Reish is goy mamolik. There's a pasuk. These are the words of Bilam. This is again, you can see the pasuk inside. This is the words of Bilam. Reish is goy mamolik. And literally it means Amalek was the first to attack us. First means chronologically. When the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, all the nations were melting with fear when they heard about the miracles that happened. Let's not forget, Mitzrayim was like the superpower of that generation. No one ever started up with Mitzrayim. They had the power of wisdom. They had the power of sorcery. They had a strong military. They were in charge. They were the top in the world. The Gemara says that in the history of Egypt, not one single slave ever escaped. And what happened to Egypt, not only that they went out of Mitzrayim, but Egypt, the country and the people, were wiped out, were humiliated, where the Eibishter gave them the makkahs, one makkah after another makkah. The whole world was in awe. Even 40 years later, when the Yidden had to go into Eretz Yisrael, it says the nations were still melting with fear. And yet, when that happened, just a few days later, comes Amalek and they attack. So they were the first ones to ever attack. So Chassidus explains, just like they were first chronologically, it also means spiritually. Amalek is the clip of Yeshus v'Gashus. We spoke about this many times. Every nation that's mentioned in the Torah that was an enemy of the Jewish people, or in general, a negative nation, whether it's Plishtim, whether it's Mitzrayim, whether it's Midian, whether it's Yevonim, or whether it's any other nation, they embody a certain klipa. And when the Eibishter made the miracle that got rid of that nation, defeated that nation, it means that klipa was weakened or was destroyed. So Amalek embodies the klipa of Yeshus and Guy, but that is arrogance to the highest heights. In other words, where does this come from? That the whole world is in awe. You just saw these miracles. You know that you're surely not going to beat them. You're going to be defeated by them, and you still attack. So it says in Chassidus, this can only come from the height of chutzpah, a chutzpah that's beyond reason and beyond comprehension. And that chutzpah comes from arrogance that's beyond comprehension. Sometimes people are arrogant in a measured way. So, for example, if I have $100,000 in the bank, I feel a little bit good about myself. I have $100,000 in the bank. The guy who has $100 million in the bank, oh, he feels much better about himself. And the guy who has $100 billion in the bank, which we have such people today, they really feel on top of the world. So basically, my chutzpah is measured according to my greatness. There was a story with the Rabbi Rashab, where he said something by the table, and there was a chassid who was a very wealthy chassid, and he told the Rebbe that he disagrees with him, which was a chassid doesn't talk like that. So Rabbi Rashab said to him, considering your chutzpah, you should have been much wealthier. In other words, the chutzpah is in proportion to the wealth. You display such chutzpah, you should have had much more money than that. Your chutzpah is out of the proportion of your wealth.
Was it a bracha? Like, did it become like wealthy after that?
Very possible.
Sometimes you can see people who are like they're like that, but they don't even have like, they're just like.
Well, chutzpah and gaiba, all these things are empty. There's nothing there. It's just air. But when the Gemara says the chutzpah of Amalek was not a measured chutzpah. The Gemara calls the term chutzpah b'lei taga. It's chutzpah beyond any kind of measurement, beyond any kind of reason or logic. It's not based on. It was just the height of yeshus, the height of arrogance, and the height of chutzpah. And that's why they had it in him to go attack the Yidden, even though the whole world was terrified. The whole world was in fear of them, and they didn't care. So what does it show us? That just like they were the first ones to attack, and after that they broke the ice, and then other nations felt that they could attack, so too Yeshus is the first and the source, first meaning the source for other negative character traits.
You think that the viciousness of like Amalek, of Esav and Ishmael comes from the chutzpah of Amalek, or?
Amalek is a descendant of Esav.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
They belong to the same family.
Oh, okay. And Ishmael?
Ishmael.
The relatives?
I don't know about Yishmael, about Esav. It says in Chumash, his descendant was Amalek. That's what the nation of Amalek comes from there.
Hamas, Esav? I thought it's Ishmael.
What?
Hamas.
Hamas? Where they're from? I don't know the yichus. I don't know if they have a yichus. They come from the Samach Mem itself. I don't know. Okay, everybody have a great Shabbos. Shabbos Baruch Shvat, special Shabbos.
My alarm's gonna go off again today. Sorry.